About political democracy and diplomacy, you want to get diseases on the political agenda. Communication is very important. And, you know, if you want to get the attention of policymakers and people who decide about UN assemblies and so on, you have to describe it in a way that immediately it catches their attention, or as you rightly said, the emotion, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there will be solutions for that. Massachusetts is probably not the one. I mean, for that purpose, right? Mm-hmm. You have to catch the attention why these diseases are so important. So now turning to a little bit of an example. I've been involved over the last 24 years in advocating for AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. For the political support, for the financial support, and setting up the global fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria to address that. So exactly 23 years ago, here in New York, Secretary General of the UN called for the first ever UN high-level meeting, and that was on HIV/AIDS. Before that, there was never any high-level meeting on any health issue. Now we have regularly, every year, there's one health issue on the agenda. So that was a huge success to get HIV/AIDS, in this special session at the UNGA. But equally important was that we could answer the question, so what are we arguing for? What are the interventions that are possible? And what do they cost? Because without that, there would have been a nice political declaration and people might have forgotten about that. And my dear colleague Bernard Schwartländer, whom you know, Jeff, he published on time for that UN high-level meeting an article in The Lancet describing exactly that. These are the interventions that are possible. This is what will cost. $10 billion. And they were like, oh, $10 billion, that's a lot of money. How could we ever get that? But from that moment, you had the attention of politicians who saw, okay, here are important diseases, there are interventions. They might be expensive, but it would save millions of lives. So let's do it. 1 year later, the Global Fund was created. And then, the process started to raise those billions. But just want to emphasize, I think for this agenda, getting onto the high-level meeting next year will be very important, but also specify what exactly you want from politicians, decision makers, and so on. Finally, it will lead to probably an investment case, or should lead to an investment case. That's what we did then in the Global Fund 3 years later. We had the first full investment case. And then you can go out really to donors, public and private, to mobilize for that. But I'm sure you have a number of these evidence points that would lend themselves. So maybe an article first, but outlining this is what we need. Because you need to have something that you ask politicians. They have a very short attention span and they have lots of different issues to deal with. This is a very important issue, but how you communicate that will be an absolutely critical. So communications, an investment case, and if I may make a final point, then you need to work a lot with parliamentarians. That's a very important. You might think of governments and policymakers. And you discuss here quite a bit US, Japan, Germany, right? 3 important countries in many different ways for the diseases, but also as donors. I spent, many years working very closely with the US Congress, with the German Bundestag, and with the Japanese Diet. And they all have committees where they discuss diseases. And this would be very important to get that to their attention, right? It's Congress. In Germany, there is a special subcommittee on global health. Get an appointment with them, present it to them. I'm sure you would get their interest. These are people who are sympathetic, who are knowledgeable about that. And the same in the Diet in Japan. So think about the kind of medical associations and so on in those countries, but also think about how you get that to that attention, because then immediately you can influence the policy agenda of these countries.